Welcome to the deep dive. So, you, our listener, might be looking at a huge tuition bill right now, or maybe you're already graduated and just buried under debt, asking yourself if that 4 year degree was really worth it. Today, we're diving into something pretty bold, kind of a contrarian idea that the traditional college path, well, for many fields anyway, has become this really expensive detour, maybe even a bit of a raw deal financially. But we're not just here to complain about the cost. Our mission is to actually give you an alternative, maybe even an antidote. We want to map out a strategic path to potentially hitting a six-figure career using something called skill stacking. Mm, Yeah,
Oh,
the idea is bypassing all that debt, the 4 years of time, and focusing squarely on practical steps, high ROI, to boost your earning potential right away.
right. And the really crucial shift, I think, is realizing the job market is moving incredibly fast, especially with tech, but universities, they just move slower. Employers today, they're not really buying a credential on paper as much as they used to. They're buying solutions. They need people who can solve their actual problems. So the key takeaway we should probably preview is that stacking skills strategically gives you this unique value. It means you can command a higher salary because you're uniquely equipped to tackle those messy, real-world problems businesses face.
Okay, let's get into the numbers then, because honestly, they're pretty shocking. We need that financial reality check on higher education right now.
Yeah, the scale is it's massive. If you look at the
Yeah.
total student loan debt in the U.S., it's $1.75 trillion. That's spread across 45 million people. And when you look at the average cost versus what graduates earn right out of the gate,
Yeah.
well, the math often just doesn't add up. Think about it. The average grad leaves with about $37,000 in debt. Okay, their starting salary. Around $55,260 on average.
That payoff seems pretty marginal initially, and that's just tuition and loans,
Exactly. That doesn't even touch the opportunity cost.
which is the real kicker, isn't it? The lost income. People argue the degree boosts lifetime earnings, but what about those 4 years you weren't earning?
That's a really important question. And the sources suggest that immediate impact is huge. That opportunity cost 4 years you could have been working is estimated pretty conservatively, actually, at between $120,000 and $150,000 in lost earnings.
Wow.
Yeah. So you add that six-figure sum to the $37,000 of debt. Suddenly the investment looks incredibly risky, unless, you land a very high-paying specialized job right away, which isn't the norm for most grads.
And that feeds right into this huge disconnect we're seeing. We're told college is for specializing, but are grads actually using that specialized knowledge?
Well, the data suggests, not really in many cases,
Yeah.
only about 27% of graduates actually end up working in their field of study.
Only 27%.
Yeah. And this stat is maybe even more telling. 43% of college grads are underemployed in their first job,
Meaning?
meaning they're in jobs that don't actually require a degree in the first place. So it's really no surprise that about 34% of recent grads flat out say they don't think their degree was worth the cost.
Okay, so you've got massive debt, 4 years of lost income potentially, and then maybe a coin flip chance you'll even use the degree you paid for. What happened to that whole college earnings premium idea, that guarantee of making more money over your lifetime?
Well, it seems to have stagnated quite a bit, especially when you compare it to how much tuition has gone up.
Yeah.
And the ROI, the return on investment, it varies wildly. That's kind of the nail in the coffin for the one-size-fits-all argument.
Right.
Like if you chose computer science, okay, yeah, your ROI is probably still decent, maybe around 22%. But if you picked something like art history or certain other humanities fields, the return might be closer to 5%.
5%, wow.
That huge gap is exactly why we need a more tactical approach, a strategic way to get the skills that actually pay.
So if the ROI is shaky, we need a different way to measure value. And that's where the skill stacking idea comes in. Let's define that clearly for everyone listening. What exactly is skill stacking?
Okay, so skill stacking is basically strategically combining several skills that complement each other and are actually in demand to build a unique professional profile. It's about deliberately designing your own specialized toolkit, one that lets you solve those more complex problems that maybe a generalist or even someone with just one deep skill can't handle alone.
I like that idea of the multiplier effect you mentioned earlier. It's not just adding skills together, 1 + 1 + 1.
Exactly, that's the core of it. Skills are often multiplicative. So if you have, say, three B+ idle skills, maybe you're pretty good at coding, you're a decent public speaker, you've got solid project management abilities, that combination can actually create way more value than having just one A+ technical skill in isolation,
Why is that?
because that unique mix makes you incredibly valuable to an organization. You can bridge gaps, you can translate technical stuff, you can manage projects. It makes you uniquely useful, and therefore, you can command a higher price.
And it probably makes you more adaptable too, right? And maybe more recession-proof. If the market shifts, the hyper specialist might be stuck, but the skill stacker has more options.
Precisely. You can pivot more easily. It's kind of like the concept of the T-shaped professional.
Explain that T-shape analogy.
Sure. Think of the vertical bar of the T as your deep expertise in one core valuable area. Let's say it's Python programming. That's your base. But then the horizontal bar of the T represents the broader skills you layer on top. Things like marketing fundamentals, maybe some business sense, definitely communication skills. It means you can do the deep technical work, sure, but you can also explain it, connect it to business goals, and work effectively with other teams, even non-technical ones.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. You mentioned some examples earlier of specific stacks that could lead to $100 K plus salaries without needing that 4-year degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take technical writing. Okay, that's a skill. Now add SEO, search engine optimization. And then add, say, knowledge of AI tools. That combination isn't 3 separate jobs. It creates something new, a technical content strategist, someone who can write the technical stuff, make sure people actually find it online, and maybe even use AI to scale the process. That kind of profile. Easily $105,000.
Okay, that makes sense. And you also mentioned revenue operations specialist. That stack was sales, data analysis, and customer psychology. That sounds like a really interesting mix.
It is, because it solves a really common business problem. You're bridging the gap between sales teams who talk to customers, the data analysts who track performance, and maybe marketing folks who understand the psychology of why people buy. Being able to connect those dots and unify strategy across those different silos, that's super valuable. We're talking maybe $115,000 for that kind of role.
Right. Or another one, UI design user interface, plus some front-end coding ability, plus product strategy. That creates a holistic product designer, potentially making $125,000. So these aren't just random lists of skills, they're bundles designed to solve bigger, more complex organizational problems.
Exactly. They create influence and solve headaches.
Okay, that sounds fantastic in theory, but how does someone actually build one of these stacks deliberately? You mentioned a 3-step method, right? A way to plan this strategically.
Yes, it absolutely needs to be strategic. It's not just collecting random skills you find interesting. There's a structure. So, step 1, find a high-income base skill. This is your foundation. It's where you'll likely spend, say, 40 to 60% of your effort and derive the bulk of your initial value. And crucially, you need to choose this based on where market demand, your own interests, and maybe your natural aptitude overlap. It has to be something companies are actively paying good money for right now.
Okay, give us some examples of those base skills and what they typically pay, just so people listening get a feel for the landscape.
Sure, the high-demand ones tend to be technical or highly quantitative. Think software development, average salary around $93K. Skills like Python, React are key there. Or data analysis averaging maybe $87K. That requires skills like SQL for databases, maybe Tableau for visualization. Design is another strong base averaging around $85K. That means things like UI/UX expertise, knowing tools like Figma really well. Getting good at just one of these, often outside college, can land you a pretty high-paying entry point.
Okay, so that's the base. Then step 2, add a multiplier skill. You said this is where the real magic happens, the big pay jump. How does that work?
Yeah, this multiplier skill is designed to seriously boost the value of your base skill, maybe by 30 to 50%. Should probably represent about 30-40% of your total value proposition.
But wait, explain the mechanic there. Like, how does adding, say, analytics actually increase a designer's pay from $85K potentially over $100? What's happening?
Okay, good question. The mechanic is basically moving from just doing the task to influencing the outcome. A designer who only focuses on making things look pretty, they're often treated like a vendor. But a designer who adds analytic skills like A/B testing, understanding conversion rates, maybe data storytelling, they become a strategic partner. They can actually measure the impact of their design choices and prove the ROI to the business.
Ah, okay. So that they can connect their work directly to business results.
Exactly. And that ability to demonstrate measurable value, that's what justifies the jump past $100. You're no longer just a cost center. You're driving revenue or improving efficiency.
Got it. So what are some other key multiplier skills people should be looking at right now?
AI tool mastery is becoming almost non-negotiable. Things like prompt engineering, knowing how to talk to AI, and workflow automation using these tools. That allows you to massively increase your output. Project management is another big one, especially agile methods. It turns you from just a doer into someone who could organize work and lead a team effectively. And definitely business acumen, understanding basic finance, strategy, It lets you speak the same language as leadership and contribute at a higher level.
Okay, base skill, multiplier skill, and then there was a third piece, the skills that help you move into leadership.
Right. Step 3, develop career-making soft skills. Now, these might only represent, say, 20% of your visible stack on paper, but they are often the absolute deciding factor when it comes to promotions and getting into those leadership roles. These are the skills that turn a highly competent $75,000 individual contributor into a $100,000 plus leader who can manage people, negotiate resources, and influence direction.
I really think these soft skills get dangerously overlooked. They're the difference between just knowing how to do the work and knowing how to, say, get the budget approved for the work or lead the team doing the work.
Absolutely critical. The sources really emphasize communication, and that means persuasive speaking, clear writing, but also really listening. Negotiation skills are huge, not just for your own salary, but for client contracts, internal resources, deadlines, and then, of course, actual leadership skills, coordinating teams, coaching others, critical thinking under pressure. If you don't cultivate these, your earning potential often hits a ceiling, no matter how good your technical skills are.
Okay, so this path sounds compelling. It avoids the huge time sink and the debt of college, but let's talk practicalities. Where do you actually get these skills, especially the technical base and multiplier ones, without paying that crazy college tuition? Are there affordable or even free options?
Oh, absolutely. The landscape of learning resources has exploded. For those core-based skills like coding, platforms like FreeCodeCamp or the Odin Project are incredible. They're totally free, very project-focused, and honestly, world-class curriculum. For marketing, you've got HubSpot Academy, Google Digital Garage, again, mostly free resources, and they often come with certifications that actually hold weight with employers.
Right. And for design, you mentioned free Figma tutorials, the daily UI challenge. These online resources are often much more up-to-date and practical than a traditional university course that might be years behind.
Exactly. And for the multiplier skills, the cost is just tiny compared to college. LinkedIn Learning is maybe $30 a month. Coursera is around $60 a month, and you can access courses from top universities, sometimes even get certifications without the giant price tag. And honestly, don't underestimate YouTube. There are specialized channels teaching incredibly deep skills for free, covering everything from cloud infrastructure like AWS to advanced financial modeling in Excel.
Okay, and what about the soft skills? You can't really learn negotiation from a YouTube video, can you?
Well, you can learn the principles, but you're right, practice is key. For public speaking and leadership, groups like Toastmasters are fantastic and really cheap, like $90 a year. Reading classic books on communication, negotiation, psychology, those cost maybe $20 each. But the absolute best way to develop soft skills: get into real-world situations. Volunteer for projects, take on freelance work, put yourself in positions where you have to communicate, negotiate, and lead, even on a small scale.
That makes sense. Practice under pressure.
And we should also mention some more formal pathways that still offer high ROI but aren't traditional degrees. Tech boot camps are a big one, places like App Academy or General Assembly. They typically cost maybe $10,000 to $15,000, which is still way less than a 4-year degree. And many use income share agreements, or ISAs.
That's a really interesting model, the ISA. It flips the risk, doesn't it? Instead of you betting on the education, the boot camp is betting on you and the skills they teach you.
Exactly. It aligns incentives. If you get a good job after their program, you pay back a percentage of your income for a set period. If you don't, you often pay much less or nothing. Plus, you have apprenticeships and internships, which offer paid, on-the-job training. Basically, replacing the classroom with real work experience from day one.
Okay, so the learning resources are there. Many are low cost or free. But learning the skill is only part one, right? You mentioned needing to prove it to actually land that $100K job. How do you demonstrate value without the traditional degree as proof?
That's absolutely crucial. You need what we call social proof. And that comes from a few key things. First, a strong project portfolio. You need to visually showcase what you can do, build things, create things, document them clearly. Second, get relevant certifications, especially vendor-specific ones if you're in tech, like AWS for cloud, Google for analytics or marketing, HubSpot for marketing sales. These act as credible signals to employers. And third, you have to actively build your professional network. Use platforms like LinkedIn, go to industry meetups if you can. Your portfolio and certifications are kind of the new credentials.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize all this. The core message seems to be the traditional college path. It's no longer the only or even necessarily the best route to a high income. For many people today, it's an expensive gamble with a decreasing ROI, and skill stacking emerges as this really compelling direct alternative.
Yeah, it's a strategic approach. It cuts out the 4 years, it cuts out the potential six-figure debt burden, and it focuses on maximizing your earning potential much, much sooner. It just aligns way better with how the job market actually works today, valuing specific, measurable results and the ability to solve complex problems efficiently.
And the real beauty of this path, I think, is that you start seeing the returns almost immediately. You learn a skill, you build a project, you add it to your stack. You can potentially start earning more right away. You're not waiting 4 years for a piece of paper to give you permission to start your career. If you're skill stacking, you're already building that career brick by brick.
So we'll leave you, the listener, with this challenge, maybe a provocation. Start building your stack today. What's that base skill going to be? And what multiplier skill are you going to start learning this week? How will you define your own $100K career path?